Hi everyone, it's Hans here, the founder of Cappuccino, and welcome back to this latest episode of Flat Whites and Insights, a podcast created to allow a space for open, honest and vulnerable conversations with real people held over a beautiful cup of coffee. I'm back for Series 4 and I can't wait to get going again with so much more to dive into and share with you guys. So to grab a coffee for yourselves, take a moment, and I hope you enjoy this latest conversation. Thank you, take care, and enjoy. Martin, hi.
Hiya.
Thanks for taking the time to come chat to myself on Flat Whites and Insights, and I'm really looking forward to having a conversation. Someone else who's local to the Didcot area, who is like-minded, we're both passionate about mental health awareness, both have lived experiences, and so I'm really looking forward to this and for people hearing a bit more about yourself and what you do. But before we start, you're right to give a brief introduction to yourself.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me on. Appreciate that. So Martin, lived in Didcot now 4 or 5 years, I think. Spent all the time before in my life. I'm 34, very nearly 35, scarily. All my time before living in Didcot, I grew up in Grove. I have had some mental health experiences, which I'm sure we're going to come on to. And about a year ago now, I set up a men's peer-to-peer support group who meet in Grove every fortnight.
Amazing. So we're going to start with your experiences, if that's all right. One thing I did want to say as well is I really appreciate you reaching out to me. So through mutual connection, so Jamie, and it was nice. And I think for yourself, maybe having that peer-to-peer group as well, one of the most rewarding things, I'm sure, is when you have people kind of message, or people maybe you don't know, maybe someone you do know, but when you hear about how, you know, they've really been able to relate to something that you're putting out. So
absolutely.
For me, it was really nice to get that message pop up, and then obviously we kind of communicated, met up for a drink, and then now led to here on the podcast. But so thank you for that. And so when I say mental health, when we talk about experiences, what's your kind of journey look like in that?
So I've had 2 diagnosed bouts of depression. First one was sort of long time ago now, early to mid-20s. The second time around was sort of middle of 2019, probably autumn 2019, that I really started realising that I was ill. Went downhill quite quickly towards the end of 2019. Couple of things going on. My dad had a terminal cancer diagnosis and ended up passing away, I think 5th or 6th of December 2019. Had some stuff going on at work as well, and just basically didn't feel great about myself during that time. I ended up, as I said, with a depression diagnosis again, probably around October 2019. But unlike the first time, this time it didn't sort of level out after I started on the medication again. I got worse and I got worse quite quickly. Got to the point where I was having, 8, 9, 10 suicidal thoughts every day. I'd moved back in with my mum to sort of, under the sort of pretense, I guess, at the time that it was to help her care for my dad that was still at home. But it was probably me that needed the care more than anyone. It was back into the family home, so where I grew up all my life. And I quickly realised, even being there and being back home and with my mum and dad, that I didn't feel safe there either. Distinctly remember being in my mum's in the bathroom in Mum's house, just normal 3-bed, 2-story house, and was just led in the bath and I was looking at the bathroom window and I was like working out in my own head, well, if I somehow managed to jump out the window, what would happen? Those kind of things. So it was decided then at that point that I was obviously a danger to myself, and it was kind of mutually agreed between myself, my mum, and my mental health support worker that the best place for me would be to be on full-time sort of 24/7 care. So I went into the Vaughan Thomas ward of the Warnford Hospital in Oxford, said voluntarily at first. Unfortunately, I continued to decline whilst I was in there, and within, I think, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks possibly of being in there, I was then sectioned, detained under Section 2 of the Mental Health Act, was under 24/7 watch, wasn't allowed to sort of be alone in my own room with a phone charging lead. Like, it got to that point where I was sort of that much of a risk to myself, and I think I ended up spending, the memory's a bit hazy now, but somewhere between 2 and 3 months, about 2.5 months, I think, in total, in hospital. And then I would probably say I've been in recovery every day since. I'm not sure that when you've been through something like that, or even if you haven't been, to that extent, and you've been depressed before, I'm not sure whether it's, I just wake up sort of one random Tuesday and all of a sudden I'm fine again. I don't think it works like that. So I'm definitely obviously not in the place that I was, but I wouldn't ever say that I'm, have recovered, because I don't know what that is. That thing, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know if it is. I don't know what it looks like. So
I guess it's such a life-changing experience, such a big experience. There'll be trauma involved in that, of course. There'll be a lot of growth and learning that you probably don't see at the time, but looking back, you can see, the different person that you would have been going into there to coming out. And I've had experiences, and thank you as well for
no worries,
sharing that, talking about that. And I think it's really, I'm really grateful that you're in a place now you feel you want to talk about that, and then we'll get more into that with the peer-to-peer group. But the fact that I think it's something we spoke about even when we just initially met, about if you've been through something like that that's brought a lot of pain and is really difficult, but you've come out of it, you almost think, well, because of that, I want to be able to use my experience to try and raise awareness or help others that might go through that, or to prevent others from maybe going through a similar thing. It's
I thought about that the other day. Something made me sort of click with that at work, and it was obviously slightly differently. But whenever there's like a major accident with like a physical injury involved, people spend so much time then evaluating that and doing risk assessments, method statements, and we make sure that this doesn't happen again approach. And I think that's very loosely linked maybe to what I'm doing, not just for me, but hopefully for other people, just trying to use that experience of the bad thing that's happened and trying to help potentially stop it from happening to myself again, first and foremost, and other people if I can as well. So.
No, definitely. And I think what you said about that, helping yourself through that group as well, and I think I can relate with what I do with Cappuccino and the brand of, initially it was a bit of a release for me, an online journal, but now even through the podcast, even if the conversations didn't go out and it didn't go to everyone else, I just think the amount I've picked up or learnt from guests or conversation I've had that have changed the way that maybe I'll think about things, or I start to appreciate, okay, I have come a long way, or the way I have gone through situations and do now is very different to how I would have done.
Yeah.
But I think something you touched on there, and we won't linger on this bit for too long, but about the, you know, say when you're in your mum's home and you see the window and the things. So as myself, when I've been in my dark places, I think, you know, it is, sometimes it's like you're not even consciously thinking it, these thoughts just kind of come into your head.
Yeah,
Sometimes, like I've had it when, like, sometimes really bad moods and you're driving and it's, you know, this is probably a classic one. People might think that you're just like, you know, you're going down a road like 60 and you're like, well, there's an oncoming car and I could just, you know, and then you have to stop, you catch yourself and it's like, or I remember having quite specific ideas about how I would potentially, you know, act on those if I was, or have like plans, and it's like never, thankfully, got to a place where I really acted on anything. But and I remember conversations with therapists where they're like, do you know how you know, they're quite blunt at times, and do you think you know how you would? And I said, yeah, and I could say the exact plan, and this is where it would be, and this is what. But it's yeah, sometimes it is then quite, you kind of catch yourself, and it can be really scary to you think, why am I thinking this?
Yeah. Do you, with those sort of memories, not necessarily saying that you have the same, like the suicidal thoughts again, but is there anything that triggers you to remember having those? What I guess I mean by that, like my mum's bathroom, right? I've been in there again hundreds of times since. And sometimes I can walk in there and walk back out again and it's like nothing. And then sometimes I walk back in there and just for a split second, oh yeah, this is where that happened. I've got there was a specific tree as well in the field. I could take anyone there right now where we used to walk the dog. And I've been back past there, and sometimes, even if I'm not there, and something can just trigger that memory.
Yeah, I think I do. I think there's, or for me, maybe locations, like geographic locations that I'm like, and there's one that I remember when I was in a really dark place and not working, and we went there, and it was like a lovely seaside trip, and you know, you get away, but then obviously there's like cliffs, and then there's the sea, and I remember vividly just thinking like, it would be so easy to just, you know, do that, and I actually haven't been back there since, and I don't know how comfortable I'd feel to go back there, and I think I actively probably wouldn't. Even though I, you know, and as you say, you never fully recovered, I think and I, you know, now working regularly, I've managed to find ways to look after myself and manage it, and sometimes still get thoughts come through, but then that understanding of a thought is just a thought. You don't have to, you know, listen too much to it. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything, and you start to, what's irrational, what's rational, what's irrational. But yeah, and then I think maybe it's certain, you know, things you might watch in, you know, on the news or TV and something. And sometimes things just I wouldn't say necessarily take me back to those memories and thoughts, but it really makes me think about how I felt in that time. And then it is just quite, it is really, really sad then. And you think that there were people that didn't manage to come past that, or in that moment when the thought came in and they're just so in it that they did act on it. And you know, and I think that's something that is quite big, is that when people, you know, people who have maybe like died by suicide, they didn't necessarily want to, they just didn't want the pain anymore. I think is like something that you hear quite a lot. Is that they felt like it was the only way.
Yeah, only option. Yeah.
So yeah, it's but a good question, and I think again, you credit to yourself for what you're doing in the space, and
thank you.
And great to kind of see you kind of trying to, as you say, use that pain and difficult times to make a positive change is something that I'm looking to do as well. But yeah, so we'll talk about it now. So Blokes, Brews, Biscuits is the name of it. So that's been around about a year, you mentioned. So where did that kind of come about, or how did you?
Yeah, so I thought if I just take it back to when I was in hospital and around that time, I count myself very lucky that I had loads of help and loads of support from friends, family, people at work, but also was from the NHS as well. Loads of people, really, really big help, and I quite clearly wouldn't be here today, I don't think, without all of those, people. So got to the point where I'd started thinking, probably about 18 months ago now, that about trying to help other people, and
Yeah.
like we've said about trying to use that negative experience to do something positive. Had a few ideas sort of going around in my head, but hadn't sort of committed to doing anything. And then I heard of Jack Badger's suicide. Obviously, local lad to where I grew up, obviously involved in the football circles that we've spoken about. I definitely didn't know Jack personally. I'd refereed him a couple of times, and he'd give me some abuse a couple of times at Tilsley Park. But that was probably the sort of final kick, push, whatever you want to call it, that I needed. Is like, right, okay, you've been thinking about this for months now. Stop worrying about what it might look like and what it needs to be and all the rest of it. Just go and start something, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, keep trying, sort of thing, and just let it grow on its own way. So I did do a little bit of research. I went to 7 or 8 sessions of Andy's Man Club in Tame, and the guys there were sort of great with me in terms of saying, you know, these are things to look out for if you want to do something similar to this. This is what we do. And then I've basically ripped their concept off, and just started the group. As I say, I think we've been meeting pretty much all year this year, fortnightly in Grove, and really enjoyed it so far.
Nice, amazing. And you mentioned there about the like kind of local non-league like kind of football scene. I think I found it's one of the things that, so I moved to the area about 8 years ago now. So I'm originally from High Wycombe, so kind of Buckinghamshire, so not too far. But one of the things that's made Didcot and made Oxfordshire feel like home to me is the local football club, like Didcot Town. I know you know quite a lot of the people there that we've spoken about previously, and then other clubs. So friends at Milton, Abingdon, Wallingford, Didcot, and many others. And it's that sense of community that you really do get and do feel, probably a lot more than football's losing that at the top level.
100%.
But also, I think in that demographic, there are a lot of people, and I've noticed because that's how I initially got involved at Didcot, was through a sponsor with Cappuccino. I was like, I didn't think I'd end up becoming a fan, becoming part of the media team, becoming a part of the board, becoming club sec.
Once you were in, you were all in.
You're all in. But some amazing people there. That's right. There's some amazing people there, and it's also, though, I notice that maybe in that demographic, there's sometimes people aren't as comfortable as, say, me, as talking about the deep things. And I've only become comfortable talking about it because I kind of had to, because I had my experiences that opened my eyes to mental health. But for example, we did a Mindful Mates session at Didcot, and as I was sponsor, and we had an evening, and it was, remember, like the chairman, so John Bailey was down there, which was great to have representation from the club. And then some of the club officials. We opened it up though to players, fans, anyone associated with the club, and the turnout was poor, to be honest. I expected that we wouldn't have loads and loads of people, but we had like a handful of people, and it was still really of a lot of value to people who were there, and it was with Restore, who are a local charity. But it did really make me think. And I'm sure maybe you touched on this, you might have had similar experiences with your sessions, of the people that I kind of wanted to reach was, the players or the younger men, and similar age maybe to, Jack Badger or I don't think I count as a young man anymore, I'm not sure, just about there, but it was that younger group, because football as well, a competitive environment, you don't want to be seen as weak, all that kind of thing, and we then had other ideas around, you have a charity tournament or like a five-a-side tournament, and you take the focus away so heavily from mental health, and there's like an activity or
tag it
football
on
around
kind
it.
of thing.
But I don't know if you have similar experiences with
clubs. Absolutely. From doing that, I'm sure the guys that have been to the group won't be mad at me for saying this, but I kind of had it in my head, I guess, when I was sort of first setting the group up, that it would be sort of lads sort of my age and my background, almost like it'd be me and my mates, as if it would be down the pub, but instead of a beer in our hand, we'd have a coffee. And I think I've probably found that the average age of the guys attending the group, I'm going to get some stick for this on Monday if I get this wrong, but let's say, conservatively, let's say 40 plus, which is great. Like, I will help anyone and everyone that I possibly can, male, female, whatever. If I can help in any way, I will try. But I definitely have realised in the last few months that I think I'm not hitting a particular demographic in 18 to 30-year-olds. And I've started to then realise, okay, maybe an 18 to 30-year-old, kind of put myself back in that age range, think back a few years, think, well, would I have gone and sat in a room...
That's the question I was just going to ask you.
With other people, with a biscuit and a coffee on a Monday night? Probably not. So I've started to think, similar to, I guess, what you've said there about how we can kind of take it on tour and go and do some outreach with it. If they're not going to come to me, maybe I need to go to them. And not only go to them, but go to them in an environment, obviously, then that they're comfortable with, right? If you want to talk to football players, you go to their football club. Automatically, I would hope they're going to be more relaxed because they're in an environment that they know. But I still think, like, numbers-wise, you said there, I'd done a couple of those, like the guys at Drayton, I think pretty much the full first team and reserve team were there, which was fantastic. I did another one at Letcombe, and there was 15, 20 lads there. And then did one at Marston a couple of weeks ago, and there's 5. Right, and I'd come away and I was a bit like, what should I have done? How should we have encouraged it a bit more? And I think it is just working out what it is or what it's going to take to get that, if it's possible at all, to get that younger age group to open up, be involved, be vulnerable. I think what you made a comment there about that, especially when you're going into a sporting environment, there is obviously that alpha male thing there, and on a Saturday and when they train, they're told to compete and be stronger than everyone else, and that's sort of hardwired, I think, into them, and it's maybe trying to flip that. It's a big thing to do, but try and flip it sort of 180 and think, well, are the stronger ones the ones that will open up and speak in front of their peers and be vulnerable? Are they actually the they actually the stronger ones, and try and make them maybe feel like in doing that they are the ones that are showing the strength and that, you know, that happy to win. But that's
I think
as you know, it's difficult to do.
It's difficult, in any environment, let alone competitive environments like that. I think that takes me back to a quote I loved, which was about it's effectively like you don't build trust by asking to help someone. You gain someone's trust by asking them for help, if that makes sense. In terms of I've absolutely butchered that, but in terms of rather than offering help, if you ask for help, that's more of a way to build trust, because sometimes if you just offer help and someone hasn't asked it, sometimes that's really annoying. Right? Unsolicited advice is really annoying and could be offensive.
You think I need help?
Or you're suggesting that I'm doing something wrong. And this isn't necessarily help in terms of mental health or well-being. It's just, you know, if you're at work and you're doing something a certain way and someone just suggests a way you can do it, but you're fine with how you do it, and you probably know more about the process than the person who's asking, it irks you. But whereas a way to build trust with someone is you go, I'm struggling a bit, do you have any advice or can you help me? And I think that goes then to what you're saying, then bringing this into a competitive environment or a sports environment or any team environment. If someone's willing to accept and be vulnerable, I actually do need a bit of help here. They've chosen you as the person they're asking. It shows that they value your opinion, they value your trust. And then it just creates a bit of a bond. So then maybe that person who they asked, they would then feel a bit more comfortable to ask the same person for help. And within a team environment, I think, is that not a strongest team when actually they can accept their weaknesses and help each other?
Yeah, and I think without giving my magic away, if there is any, I think what I've, from doing those 3 sessions in those football clubs, like the idea that I've kind of come to now is to not necessarily, so the idea is that I'm basically trying to encourage them to talk about the shit that they don't talk about, right? The really serious stuff. And the idea that I've kind of got at the moment is to try and convince them they're not necessarily doing it for themselves, but they're doing it for their teammates, and sort of try to get them to picture themselves in the dressing room or in the bar after the game, wherever it may be, and think, well, if you're in the dressing room and there's me and you and there's another guy there and another guy sat there, it might not be me or you that really need that mental health conversation at the moment, or that really struggling. The guy over there might be, but he might not want to, he's not the one that wants to start it, right? So I'm trying to encourage that, you don't have to have a really serious mental health problem, or, do it for yourself even, but if you won't do it for yourself, do it for your teammates. So if I open up the conversation, you might say something, and then if I've said something, you've said something, then hopefully player over there in the corner then might feel empowered or relaxed enough to say, you know what, I'm actually struggling with this.
It's just
and
that
it's
encouraging,
trying to make them think that it's not about themselves and it's about their teammates. Hopefully that might encourage them to talk.
Yeah, definitely. Even though you can still, benefit, it benefits the team, but also benefits yourself because you're talking, getting things off your chest, and 100%. It's just creating an environment where someone feels they can open up and they can talk. Especially if you're one of the maybe more senior figures or in a leadership position in the dressing room, if you're the captain, if you're the manager. And it's tough. And I think that then comes down to building those connections outside of like the environments where it's competitive. And I think people talk a lot about, being a family, to use inverted commas, and I don't particularly like that in terms of, workplaces, because, you're there to do a job. Yes, you want to make sure that you're supporting each other, but it is very different and it can be used sometimes, I think, almost in a negative, like, I want to even say manipulative way, of people are like, but we're all a big family. So you make people feel then guilt for not getting involved with social activities.
It's a little bit forced,
isn't it? Yeah. But I do think that the better you know people, as much as they're willing to share, and I get that at work, some people keep their cards close to their chest. Some people tell you their whole life story and more. I kind of fall somewhere between.
There's some overshare.
Yeah. But it's about, not having it forced, but just you want to have an environment where if someone is struggling, there's at least someone or some channel that they feel they can talk about it. So those sessions. So how have you? So you mentioned that you've spoken at a few football clubs and done the feedback, but then in terms of going back to the regular sessions. Yeah. So you mentioned you've got that regular group. We'll say they're in their 40s. we'll say that.
That's doing a few of them a favour.
Yeah, we'll say. But in terms of what would a session look like, in terms of, because there'll be some people who are maybe listening and they'll go, that kind of sounds like something that might interest me, but I'm not sure, because it might be something, that is a bit intimidating or a bit much.
Yeah.
And how much, does the conversation go in terms of, I guess there's an element of people share as much as they want to or don't want to. And can even, as you said, just go and listening to others is also a way to kind of learn as well. So
so I'll be honest, there are people that have walked through the door, they've got to the point of taking their coat off and then have walked straight back out, right? Because they find it overpowering or intimidating. But the message that I try and get out there is, it's like anything, right? Give it a go. If once you've given it a go, you don't like it, like, I'm not going to change it, you haven't got to come back, you're not paying me to be there, there's no financial commitment, you don't have to sign up to anything, there's no forms to fill out, nothing, right? You can literally turn up this Monday, come in. If you didn't want to come again the Monday after, fine. If you wanted to come again a couple of weeks after that, absolutely no problem. So I'd like to think that it's an environment which is relaxed and people that can talk about whatever they want to talk about. I think the ones that sort of do, and I'm trying to think back to like recent people that have come in for the first time. Do think once you've sort of done that first opening, I don't want to call it a monologue because that sounds like people are going on forever. But
yeah, I know what you mean. Like
once
that
you've got it out,
yeah.
that first bit, once you've done that, it's never as hard again, right? I'd probably work that back actually to stepping through the door. We talked about this in the group a couple of weeks ago, how, and I've sort of checked myself on this a little bit on when I've advertised the group on Facebook and stuff. I had like a little silly kind of tagline about pull up a chair, grab a biscuit, make a brick. I can't remember how it works now, but I kind of felt like maybe I was downplaying that, making it sound easy, right? All you've got to do is walk in, make a cup of tea and grab a biscuit and sit down. We talked about the fact that, you know, that door and just walking through that door for the first time, you walk through 100 doors a day, but that door sometimes to some people seems to like have a force field around it, and it's
I can see that being, it's almost accepting you've kind of, maybe even if you've made the decision, as you say, to go there, and then it's not until you get there, and it's almost by going through this door, I'm accepting, okay, I'm going to be vulnerable, I'm going to open up to people that I might never have met. And I guess I can relate that a little bit to, say with myself, I was very hesitant and initially skeptical about therapy the first time I kind of heard it. And it was that, now, one of the best things I ever did, one of the best things, well, probably the best thing for myself that I ever did was then go through, and I've had various therapy now, and actually did have some sessions at Warnford Hospital.
right.
There was a few gates to get to that. It was very like deep, like psychotherapy. Like, I'm probably not saying the correct word, but it wasn't. It was, you know,
As in physical gates, or as in like
no, like mental
gates,
yeah,
right. Or both.
Mental gates, but also so there was an assessment with like GP, and then there was another assessment with someone else. Then there was another session, and then I ended up having 24 sessions there.
Oh wow!
And that was intense. Initially quite intimidating. One of those sessions where I got there and the therapist said nothing. I had to initiate every session. There wasn't even how are you feeling this week? How are you doing? It was just, and then even the first one, because I'd had therapy before, but never like that.
And they prepared. They hadn't said like the week before
that
when you come
happen.
next. No, that was just an on the spot test.
And then you just went, you just started, and at first it was really, you know, a bit, oh wow, this is on me. But then, you know, and at times they were quite firm with me. But yeah, the hardest thing was then you go through that door the first time, and then accepting to yourself maybe that you want to go to a session like this is quite difficult. But I guess, my encouragement would be to anyone, you know, try it. And as you say, the worst thing that happens is you feel really, really you might feel uncomfortable in that first initial moments. It might just not be for you. You might not feel like it's for you. But I'd say, I guess, the more you go to and start to build those connections with people, even if you don't see each other outside the sessions and you don't share details or anything, you'll kind of exponentially get more and more from each session, because you feel you kind of see each other go through it and build those connections.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's some guys definitely that I've seen in a different, I'm not saying it's because of my group, but they're in a much different place now to where they were when they were first coming.
Must be very rewarding for yourself to see that.
Yeah,
not that you're taking all the credit,
not,
but
yes, it's all me. But yeah, it 100% it is, and I think just to touch back in terms of what they can expect, it's I think quite a consistent kind of session every time, in that the first real question will be just what's happened in the last couple of weeks, or if you're a new guy, it's just your chance to tell us as much or as little about what's going on and what's brought you there as possible, and then we generally try and fit two more questions in after that generally just things that have popped up in my life in the 2 weeks intervening between the sessions. I thought that would be a good idea to frame. a mental health question around. I won't name names, but there was one.
Yeah.
There was one question that I came up with last time that was just around conflict, and we'd spoken quite a lot because relationships form quite a big part of anyone's mental health, and we'd spoken a lot in the group about direct relationships, so husband to wife or father to child or employee to boss and those sort of things. I had one where I wasn't either of the two people directly involved in this conflict. I was somewhere in the middle of it, and we spoke about that because that can obviously have those kind of situations can have a huge impact on somebody's mental
sometimes
health.
harder.
They're trying to keep two people happy at once that had fallen out and had a disagreement.
Yeah.
So it's just generally anything around emotions, generally negative emotions, that questions get framed.
I love that, and I think that's great. And then, as you say, so for yourself, you're still learning, developing, but for everyone there, a chance to just scenario almost workshop it and say, how would you react to this?
I mean, it's great for me because, as I say, those questions kind of been built on my experiences in the last 2 weeks. It's like a therapy feedback session all rolled into one directly for me, because I will generally, because as I'm sort of setting the question out, I will answer first, just to sort of hopefully give a good example of what I want from the question. So.
I love that. Yeah, it's good. It's always helpful to just chat these things through, and then you never know. I'm sure there'll be people who've been to a session, the questions come up, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's never happened to me." And a couple of weeks later, that exact situation appears, and it's just nice to. Although obviously, when you're in the moment with things, you act or behave a certain way, but just to maybe that will help someone and reflect on it.
The best examples of those, and probably the times at which I get like the biggest buzz for myself out of doing it, is when you have got somebody that's maybe in their first session or first couple of sessions, and the way we tend to set the circle up is that I'll start, and then we'll go sort of round anti-clockwise in terms of experience. So whoever's been to the most sessions will generally sit on my right, and then say, if we come around to you, then it might be your first time. And then, it's the times when the ball kind of gets around to this side and somebody starts talking about a problem they had or telling us why they're there. And I know, because obviously I've been in every single session, that there's a guy somewhere to the right of me here that was talking about the exact same problem or almost exactly the same scenario 5 or 6 weeks ago. And you can almost feel them chomping a bit, waiting to say, do you know what, I went through that and it was horrible and this happened and that happened. Just sometimes then when we will break for a coffee or a biscuit or whatever, and you see the guy here and the guy over there, and all of a sudden they're just together and off they go, and they've made that connection. They're the moments really for me that I think, well, that is literally me doing my job. Right? I haven't got to solve anyone's individual problem. It's not all on me. It's to bring people together and share their experiences and help each other out.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, because the biggest thing is often that people feel like, and being there myself, I'm sure you might be able to say, I can't speak for you, but I'm sure you've been there, moments where you feel like, I don't know anyone else who's gone through this, or is it just me, or is it? And then when, as you say, that just bring people together who have had similar experiences, it's really nice to talk through someone who has been through something similar.
And your podcast is another, maybe they're not in the room, your podcast is another great way of doing it, right? It's not about what you necessarily get out of the conversation or what I'm getting out of the conversation now. It's hopefully the fact that it's going out there.
Yeah.
And if it only resonates with one person, or bits of it resonate with, and you may never find that out, right? Because unlike my group, you're not doing it in person, but there will be people out there that
I think that sometimes
taking something from it,
because it's hard to, when you're putting stuff out on media and social, it's impossible not to look at the number of listens or engagements or views,
I'm just like that. I'm just like that. If we all of a sudden have a drop off in numbers one week, I'm like, what did I do wrong?
Exactly. Or I'm like, am I doing it? But I think that someone to like it or whatever, it's more that it could be one person, two people, as you say, that really get something from it, and and what I've gained from just having this conversation anyway, and it's a new connection. And you say, so you listen to the pod, or we're introduced through Jamie, and then we've built this connection. We're having this conversation. This podcast goes out. People listen to it. Hopefully, it just carries
that
on going.
ripple effect, isn't it? Hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really cool, really rewarding. So something I did want to ask you as well. So this is a hard question, and you can flip it back on me. I'm just thinking as I'm about to say it, I'm like, this is a hard question. So obviously, you had the experience, as you mentioned. You're in Warnford and you come out now, and you're doing this peer-to-peer group. In terms of how much do you think you've changed as a person from before your experience with mental health to after? And it's a difficult question because as well, sometimes people ask, well, I want to go back to who I was, or I want to go back to normal, quote unquote normal. For me, I guess, I'm pleased I'm a very different person to who I was before I had my burnout and my breakdown. But yeah, I just wondered if...
Yeah, it's a good question, and possibly one that I've not been asked before, but I'll try and give you a decent answer. For a while, if we sort of looked, say, from 2020, 21, probably 22, 23-ish, so like 3 to 4 years after coming out of hospital, I was still seeing a therapist privately, and a lot of the conversation there was looking back, not just immediately me to going into hospital, but I had this sort of fascination with 2016, 2017. I want to get back to that version of me.
Okay.
I remembered it as I was really fit and healthy. I was doing really well at work. I had spare money. my dad was obviously still here. And for a long time, I couldn't get this idea that I wanted to go back at my mind, or I wanted to recapture that. And it was completely different, right? Things have moved on at work. I was a different person physically, mentally. My dad wasn't here any longer. I had Anisha, the kids. And it's taken me a long time to then think, well, let's stop chasing after that version of you that was there, or working out why you want to be that person. And I don't think there's any sort of magic moment that just, right, in fact, I'm going to stop thinking about that, stop trying to be that person, just focus who I'm going to be. It has just naturally happened. They say like time is the greatest healing stuff, and it sounds a bit corny or cliche, but in my case it probably has been. And that's not to sort of devalue that. I'm not one of those people that will say that I've worked on myself, right? But
you have.
I have. I am part of my recovery.
Massive part of it.
And I think it's just time, and I think I probably have. Now I've stopped focus on trying to be the person that was. I probably have become the person that was, now that I've stopped fixating on it and trying so hard to be that thing. And I've got to the point, I think, where I've actually can now look back on that time. We're now talking, nearly 10 years ago. I think, was it really that great? Was I that much happier? I know that I was still on sertraline at that point. I had a depression diagnosis. So maybe it wasn't the rose, it's the rose tinted glasses thing. Maybe it wasn't as shiny and as brilliant as it was. Did that answer your question? Hopefully.
It does. Yeah, it does. And I think there'll be a lot of people who will be listening, whether they've had their own experience with mental health or not, just generally growing up, right? I think it's part of getting older. Everyone just thinks, oh, I want to be back then, I want to go back to them. But then there's such a... I mean, I've known people, who passed away quite young, whether that's through suicide, other means. And as I get older, it's, again, a bit of a cliche, but I really do think, growing old is such a privilege. People live their lives so young, and have done throughout all the time. I had someone who was at university with us. I won't say names or whatever, but I think they were 21 when they passed.
Wow.
Every birthday, it's weird. I say weird. We were quite close. We weren't super close, but we like played football together. For example, we were at the same, like at the university, played in the same team and everything. And it's one that distinctly I remember how young he was, and every birthday I get to, I think, how many more years have I had than that? Which like I've never really said before or shared before, but like it's something that I do think about. And so time, I think this, and being able to just become in this. Yes, we all chase our youth again, this, that, and the other. But then I think actually, for me, the person I was before I burnt out and had my breakdown, I thought I was, happy and doing something I loved. I realised I wasn't. I was just chasing validation and achievement. And for me, like it was going to happen. When I look back, it was going to happen at some point. I'm just really grateful it happened when I was 22.
Yeah.
And it wasn't when I was a bit later in life, because it gave me enough time to then, still I've had a bit of a squiggly career path, but I could have been, I could still now have been doing that in the academia and in labs and stuff, but at some, I just have, I don't know, feel like I've matured so much more as a person.
Do you think there's, and I know I'm asking you this because I know it's true for me, but do you think there's, I'm not sure how to phrase it, but one of the things, maybe side effects, let's say, of my recovery, I think, is that I have to keep myself, you said burnout there, I have to keep myself constantly busy. I've got 7 or 8 like different lists on my phone of to-do lists. And some of them got big things on, some of them got things like make sure you put the bins out every Thursday night. But it's that I have to keep, almost like I'm trying to keep myself at like 80, 90, 100% all the time and keep myself like ridiculously busy. And that is,
exhausting.
I think, but I think like the engine is always on kind of thing. And I feel like I'm one of those people that definitely needs like some stress. But if I was to try and find a negative out of my recovery, it's the fact that it has come with this
that's almost
side effect thing. And I'm at the point now, I'm wondering whether if I just sort of gave that up and didn't do this anymore, like, would I be better or worse for it kind of thing?
I very much can relate to that. And I think my wife will be able to tell you that as well. She probably says more than me. Sometimes she's like, hands like, so you just make yourself so busy. You do it to yourself sometimes, you're so busy. And I know I had burnout before. I know that was the time I had it really bad when I was 22. Since and going forward, like since then, getting back into work and doing things, it's quite cyclical for me sometimes. But I can recognise the signs now where like my patience gets my temper becomes much shorter.
Right.
I start to not enjoy things that I know I enjoy. I start to just, start to not care about things that I know I do care about, and I start to realise, okay, I've probably taken on too much again. But I'm the same. I keep busy even just at the moment, for example. So like with the working and then doing podcasts, recording them, getting that sorted, studying for AAT, so diploma in accounting, which is doing through work. Got a baby due in about 3 weeks' time as of recording, and it's starting to stack up. I was until quite recently on the board at Didcot Town as well, doing all that. That is something that I've stepped away from, partly because I knew like the baby was on the way, and it was like, I just knew. Yes, at that time I would still have the capacity to do it, but if it was now, I think now if I had that on top, I'd be like, well, it's too much. But and even mentally, if I'm not physically writing a list, I'm mentally often running through a list of things to do, and even sometimes, which makes like my friends laugh or Freya laugh sometimes, even if it's things that I've got a day off and it's things I want to do to have fun or to enjoy myself, I still sometimes make a list of them, and they're like, why are you making it a list? Just be spontaneous, enjoy the day. And it's like, no, I want to do this. And I think there's an element of, that's partly why I can struggle though, because if I then don't achieve everything on the list, I get a bit frustrated. So I've tried to get better at, maybe at the end of the day making a list of things I did, even if it's just to write it down and then tick it, which seems ridiculous to some people.
Yeah,
just so that I can look back at my list and go, actually I did all that.
I'm exactly the same as that with the as I say, with the notes app on my phone, I used like the little circle or
Yeah.
tick thing. And I got to the point where I was when I was first sort of getting obsessed with that.
Yeah.
Once I'd done something, it would come off and I'd probably replace it with something new. So if I had 10 things on the list, there would always be 10 things on a list. And I got to, it sounds ridiculously silly, but got to the point where I've now, if I do something, I will tick it. I generally leave it on there for a week, a couple of weeks, whatever it may be, just so that when I go and look in that list, I have that visual reminder to myself that you did that and you've achieved something, however big or small it may be. All those sort of things on that list are almost of equal importance. They've either got a tick or they haven't. It doesn't matter whether it's something that will take me 5 minutes or 5 days to achieve. It's either got a tick or it hasn't, and it does become obsessive. 100%.
Yeah,
become obsessive.
But as you say, if it makes you feel like you're moving forward, getting things done, and I think, I do often wonder if I just stopped doing that, would I be more relaxed or not? You know, like, as you said, if I stop doing that or do a bit less things, because I'm very busy, life's going to change quite a lot when the little one arrives. But even in terms of things, I think, would I be better or worse if I just went to work, came home, did a little bit of my stuff on this platform? But I don't know. Part of me thinks I'd be worse because then I've got more time in here, which is where I'm trying to get better at just being and just relaxing. But
I did liken it because I've had a long time ago now, but I've had 2 cruciate knee operations. And obviously I spent a long time on crutches.
Yeah.
Right. Got to the point, well, do I still need the crutches or would I be better off with them? And I almost sometimes think, well, those notes and those task lists are my crutches. And I think as part of my recovery or whatever stage I'm in at the moment, I need those notes lists as they are my crutches.
Yeah.
And I'm too scared to just
let go of it.
Sure, I would be fine without them, but I'm too scared to just throw them on the floor and try and walk without them at the moment.
Yeah. But it's, it's, as you say, different things work for different people. I very much am a list person, whether that be in work. First thing I do when I get in, write a list. End of every day, write a list for the next day. This, that and the other. And it's, but yeah. But I think as well, part of it does come down to wanting to control things in a time when, it's nice to have control over something when there's a lot going on that we can't control. And people do it to different levels, but that's why I find, again, one of my worst habits probably, if there's a big thing that I know I need to do, but and I think a lot of people do this, right? But I'll find 3, 4, 5 little jobs that had been there and had been there for ages, and I've just been leaving them because they're not that important. As soon as there's a really important thing to do, I want to do these little jobs now, just to avoid doing the actual thing, right? Yeah.
I think the thing you said there about control and sort of thought control and stuff. I don't know whether potentially like the list making, having that control and maintain it is part of the reaction I had to the experience. I don't know if it's the same for you, but you obviously, as I did, went through a long period of time where you couldn't control your thoughts. They controlled you.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether maybe part of this sort of obsession that I've got with making sure everything's written down and I've got lists for everything and making sure I am in control of everything now, sort of too much control. I'm sure my team at work and Anisha and the kids would probably say that I'm a control freak. I wonder potentially whether that is a reaction to that, the amount of time that I spent when I was out of control and couldn't control things.
It could well be, and I think because it's scary, it's what we all want really, is to be in control. People say be the pilot of your own life and all this, but there's a lot of things that happen in life we can't. I think my one thing I'm wary of is if I've made all these lists, I've got to, or maybe don't try put too much on it, because other things appear right in the day that you didn't start off the day thinking would happen. And if you become too rigid to this list, plans change, to go beyond lists now. If you have in your head a certain idea of how something's going to go, and it's not exactly how it is, how you react to that then is a really big, and then perspective of you know, how important is that thing on your list actually in the grand scheme of things? And
just talking about control, that alarm that's gone off in my pocket 3 times since we sat down will either be my alarm to remind me to do the bins, or it'll be my alarm to remind the kids to make sure that they've done their spellings and their reading homework. I'm just sat here talking about control and I think,
I was wondering is that messages or that's alarm?
No, that's an alarm
to
do something.
But no, but I think, really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, me too.
It's been great. Before we finish, there is a question I ask everyone. So I'm going to do the same for yourself. You probably touched on it a little bit in this episode, but what does happiness mean to you?
Yeah, that is not a question that anyone ever really asks anyone, is it? Often. I think from my point of view, it is, now that I've had kids, and you're very shortly to find this out for yourself, I'm sure, that you don't, well, I don't get personal happiness. There are still things that make me...
I'm really looking forward to it.
I've not really sold the idea there, have I? There are still things that make me happy for myself, but more so now, my happiness comes out of seeing Anisha and the kids happy. Had a moment on Tuesday night where I was upstairs in the shower getting ready, and they were downstairs play fighting. Not sure what the difference is sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'd sort of been down and sort of talking about control maybe again. I'd been down and said, right, stop now, come on, like just you sit on that sofa, you sit on that sofa, leave each other alone kind of thing. Eventually had to just leave them to it. Went upstairs, got out of the shower, was brushing my teeth, and all I could hear was them just laughing and giggling. I thought, do you know what? Like, that is, they say laughter's the best medicine, don't they? And absolutely, I think when it comes through your children. So I guess that's one. And give you a sort of football perspective example, pre-kids, how my weekend looked and how I felt about it was completely dependent on how Leeds had got on a Saturday, and during that time we were milling around bottom half of the championship, so losing most weeks.
Yeah.
Nowadays, both of my kids play football. I manage Penelope's team and I help with Zachary's team as well. If their teams have won on a Saturday and a Sunday, they're happy. And it's almost got to the point now where Leeds can lose 5-6-0 at a weekend, and it doesn't really matter if Penelope and Zachary's team have won, because I live, I care more about Harwell and Hendred under 11 girls than I do about Leeds United. And I think that is probably a funny example maybe, but a good example. Same thing, like just finding that happiness in other people now, rather than finding it sort of in myself or for myself, I guess.
No, I love that. Thanks, Martin. And it goes back to that perspective thing as well, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And I can relate about results. I'm a Wycombe Wanderers fan, so we've had some ups and downs, but it used to really impact my weekend. And there's a lot of people, especially a lot of lads probably who are watching this who feel the same. But I guess it is just that, at the end of the day, it's, as long as the people around you, loved ones, and it's really nice to hear that. And I think it then kind of goes full circle and wraps around nicely of the situation obviously you were in, and I think to myself sometimes how close I was to, when I was 22, that potentially any time after that is like a bonus, because there were moments when I was like wanting that to be the end. So it's it's really nice to see, and I guess for yourself to reflect and see how much has happened since that time. And rather than chasing, and for myself or anyone who's been through that, rather than chasing back what we used to be, it's like creating new positives, new memories, and then making a big difference through Blokes, Brews and Biscuits as well. And
thank you.
Hopefully helping many others, and I hope to get along to a session soon.
Yeah, absolutely. More than welcome.
Yeah, and cheers. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this latest episode of Flat Whites and Insights, and I really hope you gained something from that conversation, because I know I certainly did. It would mean a lot if you can head over to Instagram and give Cappuccino a follow. This is where you can keep up with the content that I'm putting out and where I'm hoping to raise awareness of mental health through my passions for football, coffee and people. In addition to this, if you want to reach out and connect or come on the podcast yourself and have a conversation, please do get in touch, because I'm always keen to speak to new people and hear about new experiences. Thank you so much, take care, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.